Hi, I'm Kevin McGeary, author, musician, linguist, and comedian. And as with every month, I've read a lot of books, new and old, so I'm going to go over some of the things I've read this month. So one is The Way Back by Erich Maria Remarque, which is the follow-up to All Quiet on the Western Front, Im Westens nichts Neues, so one of the most important and greatest books of the 20th century. And in November, there was poppy season, and now World War I is completely out of living memory, and World War II is getting there. So our commemorations often lose sight of what the war actually was. So here's a great scene early on when a school teacher is giving a speech. Verdant grasses, he stutters. Eternal sleep. They're lying in the filth at the bottom of a shell hole, shot to pieces, ripped apart, sunk down in a bog. Verdant grasses. What do you think this is, hymn practice? And he waves his arm around like a windmill in a storm. A hero's death. What do you think that means? Do you want to know how little Hoyer died? He was caught on the wire the whole day and lay there screaming, and his guts were spilling out like macaroni. Then a shell took off a couple of his fingers, and 2 hours later, a bit off his leg, and he was still alive and trying to stuff his guts back into his belly with his good hand. And it wasn't until nightfall that he was finally done for. When we were able to get him, he was full of holes as a sieve. Why don't you go and tell his mother how he died if you think you're brave enough? So a really important novel by Erich Maria Remarque. Another classic I've read is The Bad Girl by Mario Vargas Llosa. So it's a 400-page tome about an unrequited affair, and it really spans the decades and the continents. So this is from a part set in the 1960s. The district breathed youth, music, lives lived without caution or calculation, great doses of ingenuousness, the desire to live for the day removed from conventional morality and values, a search for pleasure that rejected the old bourgeois myths of happiness, money, power, family, position, and social success, and found it in simple, passive forms of existence, music, artificial paradises, promiscuity, and an absolute lack of interest in the other problems that were shaking society. With their tranquil, peaceful hedonism, the hippies harmed no one. So I'm really glad Mario Vargas Llosa's political career failed, because he would have probably been shot before he had the chance to write that really great book, The Bad Girl. And he's one of my favorite authors of all time, and this is right up there with his best stuff. Another a recently published book I read is Ghost Music by An Yu, which is set in China. And one of the main characters is a famous pianist who has gone missing, called Bai Yu. So here's a great little passage, because music is notoriously difficult to write about. He was undoubtedly a brilliant pianist. His performance was as light and pure as his name, but it had always aroused a crushing fear in me, as if the countless layers of perfection hid a bottomless hole, and in the hole there was something as heavy as the world. So these are meaty literary works I read in the past month, and I also praised through The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. So Frida McFadden seems to turn out 2 novels a year, which is phenomenal, and her novels are invariably gripping, and you tend to binge them in a day or two, but they also tend to be a bit superficial to think about, and to contain very few, if any, passages of really sparkling prose. So I think one thing I ask myself about fiction that's being published nowadays is, where is the next Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier? Because when Rebecca was first published, it was considered trash, what would now be called chick lit. Whereas now it's in the canon, it's culture. But I find now there's a really, really firm line between literary fiction and genre fiction. Genre fiction tends to be a lot more readable. Literary fiction tends to contain better prose and appeal more to the beard-stroking intellectual in all of us. And one of my questions is there a happy medium? I like to think so. But is the publishing industry agreeing with me?